All right, amazing. So, firstly, I would like to welcome everyone to our first edition of a podcast with the Prendergast School, and we will be talking about Oracy. And this week we'll be featuring Ms Woodford-Smith. Ms Woodford-Smith, firstly, how are you today?
I'm good. In school, there's no one else here, so it's quite nice. Been busy getting lots of work done.
Amazing. So we'll get straight into it. The first question I'd like to ask you is, what is meant by the term Oracy?
So I feel like it's a term that's often used by teachers that we will be aware of, but actually it's not necessarily a term that we would use in lessons with students. So everyone will have hopefully heard of the phrase speak well, write well, which Miss James introduced in her assemblies, which is focused on ensuring that all students in the school are speaking in a way that's going to support their writing. So with that in mind, oracy in itself is the ability to express yourself in a fluent way and in a way that's grammatically correct in speech. So you're fluent in what you say, and what you say is grammatically correct. So we are, as a school, really focused on trying to ensure that every student in the school gets to practice this skill. So it's not something that everybody has, even adults and teachers. It's something we need to develop and work on. But it's obviously a really important skill to focus on. So when we're talking about oracy, we're talking about speaking, developing your speaking skills and developing your listening skills as well.
I think that was beautifully put. That did actually lead on to my next question, which was, why is it important to develop your speaking skills? You alluded to that a little bit. Could you just elaborate a little bit more for us?
Yeah, so I think when actually teachers were asked, we had a training recently and we were thinking of ideas as to why this is important. Obviously in a school context, being able to just talk to other students, so on a really basic level, being able to communicate with other students, being able to build relationships with other students, and being able to communicate with your teachers effectively. I think there's also another aspect that if you can if you can speak it in a way that is concise and that's clear, then you should be able to write in the same way. So hopefully by developing our speaking skills, it would develop our written work as well, or our written response. It would also enable you to approach discussions constructively in lessons, and you would feel like you could put your hand up and share answers and would feel confident in giving those verbal responses in lessons. In subjects where you might participate in arguments or debating or delivering speeches, then again it's about developing the skills that you need to do that. And I think generally being able to speak in an articulate way where you feel like you can communicate yourself, where you feel like you're being heard, and that the ideas that you have in your head are being expressed really clearly to the person you're talking to, just develops a sense of confidence and self-esteem. And this is not just in young people, this is in adults as well. But I think for students in our school, it would really impact all aspects of their learning in a really positive way.
You made a beautiful point about oracy being needed for not just a student, but also for adults. When you spoke to the students at Prendergast, what did they make of oracy, and was there anything that stood out for you?
Yeah, so I think the thing for me was that actually only 50% of students said that they would feel, or that they feel really confident speaking in lessons. And I think that given that this is how we know what the students have learned and how we communicate with students, for me it's really important that actually 100% of students feel like they have that confidence to be able to communicate with teachers and share their ideas. And actually the feedback that I got from students on this was very similar to what teachers were saying. So things like being able to communicate with the people around you, being able to explain yourself, just to be heard if you've had something happen during that day and you've got to have a resolution, just being able to communicate yourself effectively so that you feel like your ideas can be put across is really important. And then beyond the school environment, actually thinking about post-school. So some students alluded to the fact that actually when you have to go to job interviews or sixth form interviews or for university, you're going to need to be able to speak in standard English and to be able to communicate with people, and that is actually going to help you to be successful in the future. And that it's important that you're able to understand the different forms of communication and how it might be different when you speak to your friends, and then how that's different to when you're communicating with teachers or other adults. And I completely agree with everything that the student said about all of those reasons why it would be important.
And lastly, you just touched upon the feelings of the students. It's obviously slightly different coming from an adult view. What were some of the key things that the teachers mentioned when you spoke to them about Oracy in regards to how they felt about delivering it and the impact it would have on all-round teaching and learning?
So I think teachers felt like actually it's something that, although we are conscious of, that maybe we don't focus on enough. So something that could be more of a priority. But the key thing is that actually I think all teachers agree that it will impact students positively and that it will really enable them to develop their confidence and their self-esteem. And ultimately, if within a school you have 100% of students feeling like they can communicate really well and they can have their voices heard, it builds a really strong culture in the school where students feel like they're able to express themselves effectively. And ultimately, I think all teachers at this school want students to not only express themselves effectively while they're here, but build a strong culture of students going beyond the school and engaging in opportunities outside of school and post-16 where they can utilise those skills as well.
Thank you so much. Hopefully you've now just learned a number of different things there in regards to what is meant by the term Oracy, why it's important to develop the skills, and also our feelings on Oracy coming from a student point of view and a staff point of view. We look forward to giving you plenty more episodes in regards to Oracy and how we can develop as a school a culture, like Ms Woodford-Smith says, which allows the students to express themselves and also the members of staff.